Hi, I've been asking myself what Nintendo's reason is for including RT cores in the Switch GPU. Don't know the exact details, but I doubt they're enough for anything more than RT reflections and shadows. I think that's fair enough. That's all right. Let alone path tracing. You're not going to be having path tracing on a mobile device anytime soon. Going by what little footage we've seen of Star Wars Outlaws, seems that it's going to be pretty rough for any game that relies heavily on hardware RT. Is Nintendo gambling on RT and RT-related technologies getting more efficient on the software side? Are they hoping third parties might keep their reliance on RT Lite so they can port their games to Switch? Do they themselves have plans to use RT in future Switch products that we haven't seen yet? Do they want Game Freak to take a crack at it and see if the next Pokemon game can drop to 10 FPS or less? For what it's worth, I think not including RT reflections and or shadow in some sort of quality mode in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, bit of a missed opportunity.
Huh.
John, I'm going to go to you first on this one because, why did they put RT hardware in?
I mean, fundamentally, it's part of the architecture that this is based on, right?
Yes.
And furthermore, even if concessions have to be made, being able to support ray tracing features, I think, is important for multi-platform development studios where you want to try to maintain parity, especially, as you know, implementing ray tracing has a dramatic impact on the workflow, right? And if you only have to make like a fallback solution just to support Switch, which arguably could also be useful for, low spec PCs, but still, that's a bit of a pain. So I can imagine they'd rather just scale the ray tracing features up and down a bit to support the Switch hardware. And that's what we're going to see. But also, NVIDIA's approach to ray tracing has always been, they actually have the dedicated RT core, right? Which tends to be somewhat more efficient than the solution that AMD had been using at the time. So I think it could produce decent results in ray tracing where it could actually prove quite usable, even with the limits in place, right? So maybe it'll be like sort of like entry Turing level performance or something, or a bit better than that. I don't know. We'll see. But that's all stuff I'm waiting to find out, and curious to see how it actually ends up working when it ships in a game, right?
Yeah. Alex?
Well, based upon the Outlaws and the way it scales, the one thing I think is they're going to actually, they have, so Outlaws can have RT reflections, but just go to that Series S version again of all those games, and you see what they are cutting out. They actually, I don't think they do the world space lookup for their RT GI and for their RT reflections on Series S. I think they skip the world space look and they do the probes plus screen space. And probes technically do sample the RT world, but it's not in the same way. It's not per pixel at that point. So it's still using the RT hardware, but you're not necessarily getting the visuals you'd expect from an hardware RT look at that point in time. And I think that would be something that we would definitely see on Series S. So I also do think it is a bit of a shame that none of the Nintendo demos or games that they showed off really had a great call out to hardware RT support or any great evidence of it actually in anything at all. I think that would be really cool to see, and I'm very curious to see the first type of game we'll see it in. I'm not even sure if it would be like a AAA game. I think maybe would it be Outlaws that we would see it in first, or some other game? I don't know. That's what I'm kind of wondering about right now. But I would like to actually see it, just like John said, to see what can we actually expect in the end.
I think ultimately, if you think about this machine coming out in the year of our Lord 2025, the workflow for games is going to change significantly going forward. This thing's going to persist for possibly 6, 7, 8 years, right?
All right.
So you'd want some degree of future-looking design in that piece of hardware, and I think it kind of makes sense. There just seems to be like a coming together of thought on what kind of hardware should be in a GPU, right? Obviously, it's a scaled down version of even the weakest Ampere GPU, but at the same time, I think one of the strengths of the original Switch was the fact that it had a modern GPU in it, which meant that developers could easily address it. And this is a continuity, it's a continuation of that. And Nintendo could have gone down a different path, right? They could have done something completely different. NVIDIA did actually make a generation of cards that had machine learning cores but had no RT cores. It's like the 1660 and whatnot. They could have done that. They didn't. I think that's pretty good stuff. So I think it's a forward-looking design, even if it's not necessarily performant, and even if you won't see ray tracing in the short term. There's also a lot of things that you can use ray tracing for that are not visual related as well, which I think developers are going to be doing more and more of.
Star Wars games use it for sound, right? So Outlaws, the massive engine game, Snowdrop. Sorry.